In fact, there were several companies that were literally printing all of the public domain books online. There are many of them now. You can go online. You don't have to go search some old library to find some book that may be in the public domain now. Many of these companies now are printing public domain works on the internet for free for anybody to get. Now some people say, well, doesn't that destroy the book publishing industry if it's all right there for free online? Well, still in 2009, there are people who still purchase books, believe it or not. So sometimes they may want it with your cover. They may want it with your version. They may want it with your introduction. And if you're a skillful marketer, you know, they just may want your particular product. But the final thing I want to say, and is piggybacking off of what David said earlier, what is inside of you? What is your passion? What is that story that you must get out to the world? I can't tell them your story. If you pass away and haven't told that story, you've deprived all of us of your wisdom. You've deprived yourself of helping, potentially, so many people with what's inside of you. In 1829, there was a man named David Walker. David Walker had been born free, but moved to Boston. It was 1829. Particularly here in the South, the southern states banned that book. They said it was subversive, and death threats came to David Walker. 1830, he was found mysteriously murdered. This man, George G.M. James, wrote and published this book, Stolen Legacy, in 1954. After its publication, similarly to David Walker, George G.M. James mysteriously died. But in 2009, their works still live. Whatever that story is that's inside of you, you've got to bring it out, because your work will even outlive our physical bodies and have the ability to still impact people long after we're physically gone. I thank you so much for your attention. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
And my brother, any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
If somebody wants to, publish and they have the idea and whatnot, and earlier you had someone, your brother had spoken about rewrites.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does it get to be a point where there's too many rewrites? I've got a particular thing I've been working on, and it seems like every time I look at it, I'm doing something and changing. Where do you stop?
You know what? That's a very good question. And I'm going to say just my little piece, and I'm going to throw it to the professor who deals with writing, because he has to help me. I'm the type of person that I get so engrossed in an idea that once I do it, if I'm through, I'm done with it. You know what I mean? Which is not always the best way to go. But what would you say, Dave?
Was it about rewriting yourself in general?
Well, yeah, you have something you've written, you've got the draft done, and then you start going through the draft, and I'll go through it, I'll put it down for a couple of months. I come back, I'm doing something else to it again. I say, okay, this is good. I put it down, I come back and say, well, maybe, and it just goes, it seems perpetual, I keep changing. When do you get, what do you see, what do you do to get you to the point where you say, okay, this is it, send it off?
I think what you're dealing with, I've seen it a lot of times, people try to write, have 3 or 4 different main points in a story. You probably have 4 different stories that you're trying to condense into one, and split them up. Make sure that the point that you're trying to make in that story is told, and then leave it alone. Don't write it in the ground. You'll write the life out of it if you keep messing with it. So make sure you tell that story and split it up. Make another book for those other points that you're trying to make.
I never heard that before. You can write the life out of it. That's a good question.
tired of you. Said,
Yeah, yes.
So, okay, I was sitting here thinking, great presentation, but I'm still left with the question, so how did you go about doing it? Because I don't know if you really answered that.
And you know why? You're very perceptive. Because I didn't want to necessarily be a shill for some of these companies. I'm really not on the payroll of some of these companies, but that's a good question. In terms of self-publishing, there's so many companies out there that I think now are very reputable and inexpensive. iUniverse, Ex Libris, don't ask me how to spell Ex Libris. Yes. I personally use a company called Lightning Source, and they're at lightningsource.com. Again, they didn't give me a check, so I wasn't necessarily talking about them specifically. But all of them offer those things like your EAN barcode, your ISP.
Been contacting me back and forth.
Really?
Yeah, but I just was like, I didn't really know much about the company, but they call me every so often. And like, hey, Kimberly, and I was like, yeah, okay, call me in another couple of months. Because I just don't really
When you
know.
copyright something, they get your information and they start.
Yeah, because I mean, that's where I knew.
And you'll start receiving information in in the mail and everything.
Right.
Amazon.com. Amazon.com has started one called Book Surge. So they have now a company that works almost exclusively with self-published authors. And all of them are relatively around the same type of fee. The process, you basically write your product. It's your job to get it edited. It's your job to get it proofread. It's your job, unless you have, you're very creative, you may want to hire out someone to do your book covers or your design. Again, there are companies that'll do that. We work on college campuses. So, we're around people, young people particularly, who are creative. I don't need to pay $8,000 to some company that may not even give me something as good as one of these students. Students always need money. So, and many times they're able to do it. He had a real good friend he used to work with, Patrick, who's done most of our book covers, and his contact information is in my book. Actually, I have the book out, How to Be a Player in the Publishing Industry. Actually, I have several of my books over there on the table. And all of David's books are over there on the table. And we're doing a special today for the National Black Theater Festival. We waived whatever the book, the cover price is. Everything on the table is $10 or 3 for $20?
Yeah.
3 for $20.
Any
3 for $20. But we basically, you get your cover and all that. All that's digital. Your cover, your layout, everything. And then you just submit it to them and they give you a vote. Now, why I like to use this company, Lightning Source, is because Lightning Source is owned by the Ingram Book Company, which is one of the major publishers, or major book houses in the United States. And they deal with primarily many of the libraries in the United States and many of the bookstores, and even video outlets in the United States. Lightning Source. And you can get it at lightningsource.com. So once we were listed in Lightning Source's database, that meant we were listed in everybody's database. So when someone heard us on the radio in Kansas, and they went to their local library, if the library didn't have it, they could get it. If their local bookstore didn't have it, they could get it immediately.